Hey, Marina.
Hello.
I was wondering if I got the meeting time right or not.
Yeah, I should have sent a reminder, but yeah, this is this is the time. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Just checking through. I see you got a couple things on the agenda, so I was just looking through what's
Yeah.
happening.
Um, yeah, I don't know how long of a meeting this will be. If you at least a check in. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure who else is going to be here. This was the most popular time on the poll, but I was very surprised by that because I think it's Friday evening in Europe. So um, we'll see.
Did we have many from Europe that were answering the poll?
Yeah, maybe that was why. I think I don't. It looks like we have more West Coast U.S. than we do Europe. So
That could do it. You don't have access to approve your own PR?
no, yeah, that was one of the things I was going to bring up. I'm not really sure who does, but it'd be great to either to get some more folks on that list.
Yeah, I can think of some certain folks that should be on the list. So,
Yeah. um,
oh boy.
we can probably just get started. If more people show up, we can
Yeah.
figure that
Yeah, I
out.
just kind of finished reading through the command line one. So it looks like right now you just got a init command in there that kicks off for some of this right now.
Yeah, I think my main goal here was just to kind of get the scaffolding set up to kind of set it up for future
Yep.
stuff, and then do a command just to see that it works. And so the init right now, it sets up a tough repo, and I think eventually I want this command to also then push that stuff to the registry. But my next step is figuring out that library and then integrating that in here.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so just kind of basically just like a status, that's where it is.
okay.
What was, by the way, actually, I did have a question for you. What was you mentioned, I think last week, I could go back and check, but what was the library that you mentioned for registry use to look into?
There's several of them out there.
Okay.
Probably the more stable one, just because I know I'm going to change mine, and so I keep recommending other people's.
Okay.
Google has Go Container Registry, which has a command line within it called Crane. And so if you look
Okay.
at how Crane works, they're just doing registry API calls that should be pretty easy to mirror.
Mhm.
The one I've been working on is called Reg Client, and that one, it might be easier to work with, but just realize that probably in the next couple months, I'll probably do some drastic redesign on some of the stuff in there.
Okay.
If you did use it and I did redesign, I would go reach out to you later on and say, hey, here's a PR to approve.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I imagine this won't be stable in the next couple of months either. So, um, yeah, I'll take a look at both of those. See
Yeah,
what
I just recently updated Reg Client, the Reg Cuddle command line to do artifacts. So a lot of the stuff that you're doing, you've got a perfect example in there of how to push and pull those different pieces.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it would be nice to be able to use both the kind of the ORS artifacts version of registries and other registries. So that would be a nice.
Yeah. So and there's multiple sub tiers in there. So the ORAS artifact spec is a different media type from the original OCI artifact that they're working with. The OCI artifact is just saying, here's how you can use the distribution spec, the image spec, and stuff like that to push things that aren't images into a registry as if they were.
Okay.
And then the ORAS one is saying, here is a whole new media type with all kinds of interdependencies and how they work those out. So if you go with the one that's not the ORAS spec and you look at how the stuff on Go Container Registry, that's going to be more of just pushing the images with some data in there tweaked around of saying, okay, here's a different media type, but otherwise it's still just a regular container image syntax. And all it is just, here's a config, probably nothing in the config. And here is my blob of whatever data I need to push.
Okay, yeah. And I think the challenge is going to be, and I think there was an issue on this in the general notation project as well, is multiple signatures in the case of existing registries. Because I think a lot of the current schemes, I want to go double check what cosign does for this, but I think it's just like a tag that basically you can only use once per artifact, right, to sign it?
A tag can only point to one thing,
Yeah.
but that one thing could be an OCI index that points to multiple manifest. So
Okay.
that is an option. That's where I've been chatting over on that side of how you can potentially do that. If you go that direction, you have to be aware that there are potential locking issues or race condition issues where if multiple people try to push an update to the same tag simultaneously, they might not see each other's changes. And so they'll write the other change out of the other one. You know, it's last writer wins. So there is another proposal out there for how can we put some kind of, there's some e-tag headers in there where you can request only push this change if the e-tag hasn't been modified. And the e-tag is identical to the digest. They have kept it simple in that case for registries. So that would be a nice way to do it. I don't think any registries, maybe there are a handful of registries that support it. The challenge is that any replicated registry is backed by an S3 data store, which is probably 90% of them out there right now, can't really provide it. You need some other layer in there because an S3 backend isn't enough to give you that concurrency check. It's just going to give you the whoever last. Yeah,
which is a challenge for the backwards compatibility goal, right? Because then, you know,
so what you end up with is kind of like a best effort. And so if two people change it, then you get a race condition and you say, hey, we tried the best we could. You need to handle that on your side and just make sure two people aren't writing simultaneously.
Yeah, which might be possible, especially if all the folks who are signing it know each other, which is probably a very likely common case.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
Yeah.
And these are multiple people with write access to the same repo. And so hopefully when you get in those situations, you don't have those problems too much.
Yeah, or they at least can fix it when it does go wrong. So.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. I think that sounds like a relatively straightforward, like kind of legacy way to do the multiple signature thing.
Yeah, it's either that or you have to have multiple tags and then have some way to know that these multiple tags are all pointing back to the same or used for the same image, and that gets a little cluttered. Yeah, it gets a little cluttered. It gets a little more difficult to discover. You have to go out and do a tag list in the repo to find all the stuff. So an index seems like a cleaner way to do it.
Okay, yeah, and then for the ORAS stuff, I think is there a library there that would be the best one to use for the ORAS piece? Probably just basically do two different registry implementation.
Yeah, I haven't looked at what they're doing, but ORAS themselves has everything they've been doing in their repo. So
okay, yeah, I'll look into that as well, because that way I can do one thing for the existing registries and then one thing for the ORAS. Cool.
Yeah, my current priority is to focus on the existing registries, even knowing that I want to go back later on and fix it up for the new fancy stuff. I'm sticking with the existing just because I know it's going to take a while to get all the registries updated.
Yeah, and I think we'll definitely need both at least for a while. So I think that sounds like the way to go. Plus, I think there's like what the OCI will end up doing is I think still up in the air. So I don't want to.
It is.
Yeah,
It
commit to
is.
anything.
We try pushing them and it's slower than we want to see it go. But
Yeah.
I think there's some internal politics that I haven't been privy to on the back end. So it's hopefully that can make some progress there.
Yeah. So we'll see. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Otherwise, that shell looked good to me. So for the
okay.
CLI.
Yeah. And I'll make sure to tag you when I start doing some of the registry parts of the PR, which I think will be one of my next steps because I think, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
Get more
I
eyes on
realized
that.
I hadn't been watching this enough, so I added a watch for myself so I can see when these things pop in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and then I guess the other thing I have linked here is the CLI design, which we looked at last week. It doesn't have any approvals, but I don't actually know that matters because I don't know who can merge it. But if you have a minute and want to take a look and add comments or whatever, that would be helpful. And then who created this repository? Does anyone remember? I feel like it was either Steve or Justin Cormack.
I'll say it definitely was not me.
Yeah. Just so I can figure out who to follow up with.
I see Justin listed as a contributor, so I would start to suspect Justin is probably, he did the merge request on one of these things.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably hit him up and say, hey, give me access.
Yeah.
I know it's Friday night over there, but come on.
Maybe we'll ping him next week. But
what repo is this?
This is the tough repo in the Notary project. I don't know who has merge access other than Justin Cormack. It looks like he merged one PR. Otherwise, I don't know who else can do it. So yeah, because I think that the CI one is basically ready to merge, at least as an initial thing. I just don't know who can do that. Yeah. Oh yeah, thanks for saying. So, okay, anything else? Anything else to talk about? My plan is just basically to keep iterating on that CLI thing, as well as some GoTough stuff to then support that. But
oh, it looks good. I've got no complaints. It looks nice.
Cool.
Yeah,
and everyone else is. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to throw out anything you need from us more than
that's a good point.
Of course, more time. That would be awesome for everybody. But
well, yeah. If anyone does have time and wants to implement any of the commands in the CLI design onto the thing, that would be great. Otherwise,
Marina, can you reach out? Can you DM my colleague Ethan Lohman on the Slack channel about this?
About this?
Yeah, because we should be collaborating more. We're planning to implement stuff internally here inside Datadog also for our own OCI stuff. And I think it makes no sense to re-implement, the same thing differently.
Yeah, I met with him briefly about some of this because I heard that he was working on that. And I think we talked a bit about some of the GoTough changes, and we're going to try and.
Okay, I'll put you both in touch. I'll DM you both, and then we'll take it from there. So.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah, because it would be great just to get more hands on this. So, yeah. Anything else? Any other bigger things to chat about? I figure at this moment I'm mostly in trying to get the stuff that we've already agreed to into the code, but I don't know if there's any other pieces to talk about.
Yeah, the only piece I'm still trying to wrap my head around is, for example, where the link is between when Tough is doing its internal delegations and targets and that sort of thing, and making that jump over to, okay, here's the sign content, and which pieces are just signing the keys and keeping track of the key management versus the actual data that we're signing. Yeah,
that's a good question. And I'm hoping this will it'll become more clear what the pain points are as this starts working. But I think my current kind of vision is that you'll have this this tough repo that you just know about. When you distribute the root keys, this tough repo is there. And that's where you download root and top level targets. And then the way I kind of envision it is basically the top level targets will delegate to a set of keys for a repository. And then, so you as a user already know what you're downloading, right? So you download either the hash or the tag. of that image or whatever you're downloading, and then also download the associated tough metadata using the whichever method to figure out tough metadata, verify those signatures against the keys listed in the top level targets. It's kind of a general flow. I was talking at some point about how we can do that in less queries to the registry, which would probably require more registry support, but would be kind of a cool optimization there. So I'm not totally sure about that, but
depending on the size of what you're pulling back, you can sometimes inline some data in there.
Okay.
It's not officially supported yet, the data field didn't, but it doesn't mean you couldn't implement it in a different field and just do it
yeah,
yourself.
just like
as
put
an
in like
annotation.
there's like an annotations field or something, right?
Yeah, you
add
can
whatever.
always throw stuff in annotation. So you could have the link blob of whatever you're pointing to, but you could also just inline that directly in the annotation, save yourself a query that way. So it just depends on what you're sending back and forth, how big this is, as to whether it makes sense.
Okay, and I think the metadata should all be relatively small, especially before we get to snapshot and stuff, which again is, I think that's going to be, I think first I want to get the delegation through targets working, and then we'll figure out the snapshot piece, which I imagine can just be on that same tough repository, but there might be some kind of service needed to make that all work.
So logically, just because I'm not the tough expert, and so I'm always trying to wrap my head around this stuff a little bit, is the snapshot, that's a collection of things the target's point to, or is it something like
So
that's where I'm trying to get the logic?
Yeah, at the kind of the simplest implementation of a snapshot, it's just a list of all the target's metadata files and the integer version that they're on. It's just to prevent kind of rollbacks of the metadata, just making sure that you have the correct metadata.
And then the targets, those are keys you've delegated, right? So that's also key data at that point.
Yeah, so each target's metadata is signed by keys, and like you can think of the delegated targets kind of just as, it's basically just the signature, right? It's it includes metadata about the thing you're signing and then a signature over that. So it's, yeah, it's basically.
But is that okay? So in the targets metadata, is that going to be a place where we have references to the digest and whatnot that we've signed, or is that going to be signing of the keys that are signed the digest, or both?
Yeah, so what I imagine is, so there's the top level targets, which will just sign keys that then sign the digest, and then the delegated targets will be the ones that have the reference for the ORS stuff, the reference to the actual image that's signed, and they'll basically just sign the image using the keys that are delegated. I think I don't know, with the whiteboard, I think I could explain a little bit better.
Yeah, this is one of those places where I think if I saw a bunch of the actual raw JSON, it would probably clear it up for me really good, just to see through, you know, okay, this is actually going to be the JSON of the scripter that's pointing to the image. Here's the key that we signed. This whole JSON is being signed by this other thing. That
yeah, maybe I'll plan for next week, even if I don't get all of the code working automatically, just to have the JSON from some of my test stuff, just so we can look at that. Yeah, if that helps. Yeah.
And even if the code isn't written, just having a mock-up of just kind of the logic in there, that helps kind of solidify it in my head, just because I'm still working through.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I can definitely do that. Because I can even just use, Python tough just to make the metadata, even though it's not the same format.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. And then I don't know what else. I think I have some action items for myself, but I don't know if there's any other ones to look at here.
And if you get to the point and you say, you know what, I'll go ahead and just jump on the reg client stuff just because it's easier for you, it makes a little more sense, let me know. I'll probably jump in there and start throwing some code in there for you as well.
Okay.
Just because that's the one I'm familiar with since I've been writing it.
Yeah, that would be great. So yeah, I'll probably just do just a tiny bit of research just to see what the state of things is. But yeah, I don't have a particular preference there. So
I think we're all pretty flexible at this point.
and
as soon as you start looking at the Aura stuff, you might say, you know what, they do both on their side as well. So it might just be easier just to use one library for everything.
Okay.
I'm not picky.
Okay.
As long as it all goes back to an OCI backend at the end of the day, that we've got the flexibility, we can then make other tools on top of this as well.
Yeah. And maybe we could even be modular enough that you can just kind of move that around. So,
Yeah. Changing the library on your side, probably not, but being able to have a second tool out there that says, okay, we've got one implementation verifying all the tough metadata on one place, get a second implementation on the second place that can kind of validate the implementation.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's nice. As I found out the hard way, there are a lot of people that don't quite implement things the way they should.
yeah.
I've found a lot of registries that I've poked holes in a lot of registries. I've given people like John on the Google side and people on the
Mhm.
AWS side headaches when they realize that I'm pinging them on questions that they probably wish they didn't have to answer.
You're the ones that they hadn't thought about when writing the code or whatever. Yeah.
When they're saying, what do you mean we're giving the wrong HTTP status code back? And
Oh no. Yeah.
yeah, so sometimes they're not happy with me. And so yes, having a second implementation sometimes works those quirks out of the implementations.
Mhm.
Trishant, anything else from your side?
Yep.
Nope.
You're happy there? Yeah, I'm happy here. Marina, anything else you need from us, just let us know.
Yeah, I'll just keep tagging people on GitHub things, and then
Yes, please, at least reviews. And then I'm talking to Ethan also about coordinating work with yourself, because I think it makes sense. I don't want us to, spend time writing code that only we will use. It'd be great if everyone can use it. So
yeah, so that would be great. So
Yeah.
let me know, and I can do a better job of opening issues for the things I'm going to work on, so that other people can take them on.
that would be great. If you could
yeah.
open like a project, GitHub has got like this project issue. I find that very useful, at least for organizing things for myself.
Yeah.
And also people can come in and see, oh, I see Marina's going to work on this and this and this next.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I've just been keeping it in my head because I'm just doing it, but that's probably a smart thing to do.
I'm almost as bad. I've got a private document on my own machine with all the to-do items I'm getting ready to work on. So nobody realizes all the next features I'm getting ready to throw out. So
yeah,
I'm right there with you, Marina.
All right, so I'll do that as well so that we can collaborate. Otherwise, enjoy your Friday afternoon and have a good weekend.
Sounds like a plan.
Bye now. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.